Yeah, everybody says it'll never happen to me, and we thought the same thing. In fact, that morning we had 4 sleds in our trailer. 2 of them were completely equipped with survival equipment that we used every year, every time we went out. But then these 2 new sleds, we didn't take the time to transfer it. We were just going for a short ride. Nothing was going to happen. We wouldn't really need it. Turned out to be the day we really needed it.
Good friends Stuart Hughes and Rick Peterson were snowmobiling.
When they didn't come back Friday night, a search began to find them. 2 snowmobilers lost in the high Uintas.
We went deeper in than we'd ever gone before, and that's where we ended up in a bad situation. What happened is we got back in a drainage area in a deep ravine and ended up going off a small frozen waterfall, landing in the pond at the bottom and breaking the ice, submerging our sleds. What compounded the situation is that we thought we were just right up above Mirror Lake Highway, which is a long ways away from where we really were. No GPS, no cell service, and we assumed we were in a very different canyon than the one we were in. So when we tried to get out, and we had to crawl to do that. Snow was really deep, you couldn't stand up, so we're crawling on our hands and knees. We got stuck midday on a Friday, and until about midnight that night, we spent crawling through the deep snow trying to get out. That first night, we ended up recognizing that this wasn't just an adventure and kind of a story we'd be telling our buddies in the morning. This turned into a survival situation. We were getting cold. The hypothermia started to kick in a little bit and shaking and shivering. Unfortunately, we were in a pretty barren area. The snow was super deep, and we ended up kind of crawling up under a rock that night and just had limited coverage for the overhang of the rock. And spent 4 or 5 hours there shaking and shivering, and decided about 5 o'clock in the morning we needed to start crawling to keep warm. Later on in the day, we started thinking about being where search and rescue could spot us if they were overhead in a plane or a helicopter.
We didn't have an idea which direction he'd gone from the trailhead, and so we called and asked Wasatch County to come out and assist us. We had both counties out here looking, and initially we were just trying to get a direction of travel. We had some information that he might be in the Soapstone area, so we spent some of our initial search looking in there.
So Saturday night, we're completely exhausted. The hypothermia is extreme to where you're shaking so bad you can't, control even your arms to crawl. We ended up saying our silent prayers and ended up finding a tree that had fallen over against another and crawled and burrowed ourselves down underneath that. That night, we tried to keep each other awake. We'd heard enough stories about search and rescue that if you fall asleep, you get comfortable, you fall asleep, and then you just don't wake up.
The other thing that complicated the search was that we had some new snowfall covering any possibility of finding fresh snowmobile tracks.
And we're just leaning up against the trees, trying to stay conscious, and all of a sudden we hear the thump, thump, thump of a helicopter.
And I remember one of our guys came across a really old track, but he recognized the ski. And he said, why don't you call Wellers and see if they put this type of ski on? And they called back and said, yes, that's the kind of ski. So we immediately, it was right before dark, because you remember when the helicopter went over you, it was almost dark.
It was almost dark. They came right to us. He tilted the helicopter to let me know he'd seen me, and then he left. I'm like, wait a minute, where are you going? They had dropped 2 ski patrol individuals just a mile or so away from us. They snowshoed into us and tried to help us walk out to a landing zone that they'd created about a mile from where they found us. And about halfway there, they radioed down to the base camp and said, these guys aren't going to make it. We have to get them out of here now. Again, there's so many things that we're grateful for. One is the search and rescue spent those 3 days sacrificing everything to find us, and then secondly, that we were able to get to a facility like the burn center and experience a controlled thaw. That's how it ended. We were counting on some help from above, but we knew that help from above would need individuals on the ground that were willing to follow the guidance and their training and their experience to come and find us. And I knew that was search and rescue. So the message is, search and rescue saves lives. Absolutely, I'm living proof of that. And it's up to us, the citizens, to support these guys and do everything we can to make sure they're able to have what they need when somebody like me needs their help, and in fact their life depends on it.
We'd like to thank Rick Peterson for sharing that story with us. I mean, it really puts search and rescue into perspective when you have someone that's gone through that. It's amazing.
You know what? Those guys are absolutely amazing, and it's volunteer work, and I swear they are just they're working for the people and they're amazing. And that's the story. It's really hard for me to even talk about it. I was really emotionally moved. Anyway, we have to take a commercial break. Oh, commercial break. No, we'll take a commercial break.
It's a commercial break.
That's right. And we'll be right back.